SADC Chair President Cyril Ramaphosa says he will consult the chair of the organ on politics, defense and security to ensure that appropriate protection is provided ahead of the elections in Zimbabwe. He has condemned the blast at the White City Stadium in Bulawayo, where Zimbabwe President Emmerson Mnangagwa was addressing an election rally, as well as the attack in Limpopo. Well, the ANC, the DA, the EFF and the African Union have also condemned the attacks.
ZANU-PF faithfuls a day after the bomb blast. Among those injured in the blast, the second vice president, while the first vice president had minor injuries. And true to military norm, he is back in the battle to woo voters for the July polls. He addressed this gathering in Harare.
That nothing will stop the election in Zimbabwe. Nothing at all. That act of terrorism which happened in Bulawayo is nothing. It does not deter anyone. But if the colleagues running for the harmonized election on the 30th of July are afraid and are scared, they will be given security.
Zimbabwe police have offered a reward for information leading to the arrest of the perpetrators. President Emmerson Mnangagwa has called for calm. He appealed to Zimbabweans to remain committed to free, fair and non-violent elections.
While we have all chosen the path of peace, others unfortunately still cling to the tools of violence. However, my fellow Zimbabweans, I assure you they will not succeed. We will not turn back. The forces of progress cannot be stopped. Now, we as a people must unite. We are one people.
President Cyril Ramaphosa took time during his address to the governing party in Limpopo, saying it is vital that the political and security situation in Zimbabwe remains stable in the run-up to elections. He says acts of violence and criminality have no place in the democratic process of any sovereign state within the SADC region.
We stand behind the people of Zimbabwe and we support President Mnangagwa in his efforts of stabilizing Zimbabwe. I will be speaking to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia later on today and pass on the good wishes of the people of South Africa and to say to him they should not be deterred by these barbaric and cowardly acts.
In a statement, the ANC says it views the attacks in Zimbabwe and Ethiopia as barbaric and cowardice acts of assassination attempts and deliberate ploys to destabilize and create disunity and confusion in sister African countries. DA leader Mmusi Maimane said Zimbabwe needs free and fair elections without violence. He said South Africa and SADC must investigate urgently. EFF says it hopes peace will remain in Zimbabwe until the upcoming elections and beyond. The party hopes Zimbabwe will return to its former glory as the breadbasket of Africa. The chairperson of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, sent his condolences and wished a speedy recovery to the injured in the two attacks. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, joining us in studio is political consultant and strategist Acie Lumumba. A very good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Shante, thank you for having me.
Essentially, what is the latest in Zimbabwe?
So the president gave remarks to the nation earlier today. And in the remarks the president assured the nation that first of all, he is safe. Second of all, that his leadership is safe. But I think most importantly, he assured the nation that everything that needs to be done in order for the investigation to begin, to take place, and come to a conclusion is now under course. That's what we know so far. But what we also know as far as the latest is concerned is every major political party in the country, including foreign international leaders, have now sent in their messages of support to stand with the country, to let the country know that what happened in Zimbabwe yesterday is not a Zimbabwean issue. It's not a threat to ZANU-PF. It's not a threat to Zimbabwe. It's a threat to the very thread of the fabric we call democracy on this continent. So the country is stable. I landed in Johannesburg this afternoon. The president is back on his campaign trail. So is the opposition back on their campaign trail. They will find who did this. If there's one thing I know about the people who are now in charge of the country, is they will find who did this and the country will normalize.
You say, essentially, how is this going to be affecting elections going forward, and what sort of change will we be seeing in the security contingent around, number one, specifically political rallies?
I think a couple of security matters now have to be put into consideration. First of all, you now have to reconsider and upgrade the security around the president. You have to, in any country, not because it's President Mnangagwa, but because it's the head of state. You don't salute the man, you salute the office. So you have to upgrade the security that is moving with the president, his advance team, his protocol team, and his reconnaissance team. The second thing you now need to be seriously focused on is, how do you secure the crowds that are coming to these rallies? Bear in mind that these rallies, sometimes your families there. You not just have politicians at rallies, you have politicians' wives, you have politicians' children, you have administrators, you have vendors, you've got children sometimes. So you now need to put serious material protection in sync for them. But understand this about protection. What Zimbabwe has to do is not brand new to Zimbabwe. You know, there is precedence that has been set. There is lessons we can learn from many nations who have much higher security risks than we have. And I think that's exactly what the presidential guard is in the process of doing right now. All security agencies in the country are all hands on deck to figure out, how do we stop this from happening again? How do we find out how this happened in the first place? But most importantly, how do we get to this election and allow people to be able to vote and shape the narrative of the future they want to belong in?
You know, let's just talk about your view then in what the international community and their role that they should play in Zimbabwe specifically after this attack.
The first thing that I think the international community can do is to stand in solidarity with the people of Zimbabwe. You know, when an attack like this happens, you have experts who happen overnight. You have people who have never seen a bomb in their life, now starting to talk about what a bomb looks like. You have people who were not on site, now becoming investigation experts, and you now have all of a sudden ballistic experts who come from the internet circles. So what the international community, I think, does is it helps us stabilize ourselves, because we are the ones who've had to interface with this tragedy. But when you start hearing the international community telling you, it's okay, we will support you, we will help you where you need help, but most importantly, don't worry, we have seen worse. I mean, Ethiopia yesterday went through exactly the same thing, but perhaps at a much grander stage. The international community has already started sending solidarity. President Kenyatta of Kenya sent his support. He was the first national leader to respond yesterday. The United States Embassy, also in Harare, was the second to respond yesterday, followed by all of the other embassies, especially the international ones. And of course, today, President Cyril Ramaphosa weighed in his support. So I think the international community is doing all we expect of them. Stand in solidarity with us and let us know that you still stand with us no matter the way this goes afterwards.
Is this something that could have, seen beforehand? The president himself also stating that this, in fact, is the 6th attempt on his life. Also speaking to MDC leader yesterday, Nelson Chamisa, also saying that, political leaders in Zimbabwe and having threats on their life is not something new.
Understand the man you are speaking about when you speak of President Emmerson Mnangagwa. You're speaking about a man who this attack is new to us as civilians. But this attack is not new to this president. This is a man who went to war when he was in his teenage years. This is a man who, for the larger part of his life, was ducking bombs every single day to deliver liberation in the country. And then when he proceeded that, and he was now in government, internal fights, both and external fights, were fighting him for the position he has today. So as far as the man is concerned, he is used to being attacked. He is used to surviving attacks. I mean, he's been nicknamed the crocodile as a result of how many times he has kind of stayed quiet in the midst of all his attacks. I think what is new is it's the generation. You now have a generation like mine, which has never really seen anything like this, which has never really been confronted with anything like this. So we are the ones who are new to an attack on our president. But again, I want to reiterate this, Shante. The president has shown great leadership. He has done everything you can expect him to do, which is to get ahead of the curve. Let whoever did this know that we are not going to be in fear because of your actions, we're going to be in confidence. Because one of two things is going to happen. If we show fear, whoever did this gets confident. If we show confidence, whoever did this gets fear. So we have to trade fear for confidence, and I think that's what the president did today.
Well said. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Acie Lumumba, political consultant and strategist, just talking about the Bulawayo blast which took place yesterday in Zimbabwe, also confirming the condemnation as well as solidarity from many countries, including that of South Africa.